So, for how many of you is this your first time at a Biologos event? Yeah, that's what I thought. That's awesome. Welcome. We are glad you're here. So let me give just a little background on how Biologos got started. We're a relatively young organization. The public launch was about 6 years ago. And it all started with Francis Collins. If you don't know him, he is one of the world's leading biologists and geneticists. He led the Human Genome Project, and then he went on to direct the National Institutes of Health, where he currently serves. He also wrote this book, The Language of God, and in this book he gave his testimony of how he became a Christian as an adult, and became a Christian partly through reading the works of C.S. Lewis. So when this book came out, it became a bestseller. He was on the cover of Time magazine. It was such a radical figure for many people because there's a stereotype in our culture that a great scientist isn't also an evangelical Christian. So you had scientists looking at this book and saying, well, okay, we know he's a great scientist, but he's talking about religion. And then you had Christians looking at this book saying, well, he loves C.S. Lewis, he's an evangelical Christian, but why is he talking about evolution? So this book led to tons of questions. Francis's inbox filled up, overflowed, and he founded Biologos, a website that would answer the most common questions that he was receiving. That website has grown in 6 years to now have over 1,000 articles on it. Articles, blog posts, videos, curricula, all sorts of things on this site. And from a wide range of people, from some leading scientists, from top theologians, megachurch pastors, and also lots of lay people telling their own stories of how they've encountered evolution in Christian faith. And it's grown into a tremendous resource. We had over 1 million unique visitors to our website last year. Over 1 million. So we're pretty thrilled about that. And we're up to 25,000 followers on Facebook. If you're a Facebook person, please make sure you're following us and liking our stuff. That's always helpful. So as Biologos grows, we want to add more real-world events like this, where we can spend time together in fellowship, building friendships, worshiping together, and learning together. There's tons to learn this week. As if you've glanced at the program, you see we have some awesome plenary lectures over these 2.5 days and lots of great tracks, lots of opportunities to learn and discuss. So we're really looking forward to that. The Biologos mission is to invite the church and the world to see the harmony between science and biblical faith as we present an evolutionary understanding of God's creation. So we are celebrating this harmony between science and faith, looking at those two. For me as a musician, harmony doesn't mean just, oh, we just all get along and it's just happy and there's no issues. For me, harmony, I'm thinking of the counterpoint of J.S. Bach and some of the great harmonies of Beethoven, and the ways that there can be tension and different threads coming in as we consider the science and the Bible side by side. And sometimes they seem like they're in tension, but as you look at the bigger picture, you can see the harmony of how they fit together. And that's the approach we want to use today. So for us, the word evolution at Biologos does not mean an atheistic worldview. That is so commonly how it is used in our culture. People just say the word evolution, and everyone's like, oh. And I know this personally. I grew up in a church, an evangelical church, that assumed that the earth was young and evolution was just not a good word. So it was only as an adult that I saw the scientific evidence. I learned some biblical scholarship. I learned how I could understand the Bible and respect its authority fully, and in fact, understand it better. While also accepting this evidence that's so abundant in God's creation. So for us, most of the time when we're using the word evolution, we're referring to a scientific process, a natural process, a process that God used to create. And so that means, in that same geeky way that scientists talk about other fields, they're talking about evolution. People who study it, they use it in that positive sense. Unfortunately, with this tension in our culture, studies have shown there's around 40% of United States adults do not accept the evidence for evolution. But when they're asked that question, they're often thinking of that worldview. They're saying, well, I reject atheism. If you ask a little deeper and tease out the results a bit more, you see a bit of a different picture. And I encourage you to see Jonathan Hill's work. Is going to be in one of the breakout sessions this afternoon. He's done some surveys showing what are the factors that cause people to say that they would accept young earth creationism and reject evolution. And, sometimes you hear, oh, it's because people are it's about politics, or it's about where they live in the country, or it's about education level. And he actually found it's none of those things. The biggest factors that correlate with accepting young Earth creationism are respect for the Bible, strong respect for the Bible not having any errors in it, and the group that they're from, that their church has this view, which points to a whole lot of factors besides scientific evidence. There's also these factors of biblical interpretation. We're going to be hearing a lot about that this week. In fact, our first couple plenaries, the one this morning, is going to be from a biblical scholar. And it's also about those relationships, those social factors. And that's very important that we have to address to improve the dialogue on evolution and Christian faith. It can't just be about scientific arguments. It's about so much more than that. It affects the work of the church. Sadly, this is causing some people to feel like they have to choose between science and Christian faith. We see it at Biologos. People write to our website, and they will say, well, I'm thinking about becoming a Christian, but I'm not sure about this science stuff. I can't give up science. The evidence is just too strong. And then through our website, they found, oh, it is possible to be a vibrant, growing Christian and accept the scientific evidence. We also hear of people who have grown up in the faith, but then feel that they have to walk away from it because of scientific evidence. So that's a huge motivation for the work we're doing at Biologos. It's the work that we do on our website. It's work that I hope that many of you will continue to partner with us in. Many of you already have, and many of you can continue that work. So that's something you can be thinking about this week. So one of the approaches Biologos has taken to addressing these needs is our Evolution and Christian Faith Grants Program. And Ard mentioned that briefly. That's the title of this conference. This is a program where we handed out grants to 37 different teams across North America and Europe. And these were teams to investigate a whole variety of things on the topic of evolution and Christian faith. Those of you who received those grants, can you raise your hands? Yeah, those folks. So be on the lookout for them. Many of them are presenting this week in plenaries or breakout talks or posters. And you can see some of the many fruits of this program. Because of those sociological factors, one of our goals in the program was to distribute these grants in many different geographic communities and faith communities. So we gave grants to teams in France and Spain who've been doing a lot of translation. We've given grants to Korean American churches in Boston, to the Nazarene denomination, to several different groups in different areas, conservative Christian colleges, all of whom are taking these ideas and bringing them in a way that makes sense for their communities. And that is a big approach that we have here at Biologos. Another approach we have is to make a safe place for conversation. Gracious dialogue is incredibly important to us, and I trust that you've already gotten a sense of that, and I trust that you'll be a part of that this week. We're going to be disagreeing with each other, even we're all maybe fans of science and lovers of the Bible, but that doesn't mean we're always going to agree on everything. But unity in Christ does not mean uniformity. Unity does not mean uniformity. We don't have to all agree in order to celebrate our shared faith in Jesus Christ. So an important part of this is having safe places for conversation where people are not attacked or belittled for their point of view, where we come with genuine curiosity to hear other views and to learn more. So in our grants program, we have several projects that we're working with high school students, with college students, to make those places for conversation and to provide information so it can be an informed conversation. And then another big part of our grants program was to address the specific questions that people have, the concerns about biblical interpretation, the concerns about theological viewpoints. We wanted to advance the scholarship in these areas, and scholarship that is looking at the concerns that evangelical Christians have. So a lot of scholarship has been done on these questions, but not that tightly focused and not always from an interdisciplinary perspective. So in this, you'll be hearing from different grant projects that bring together a geneticist and a biblical scholar and a philosopher, for instance, and teams like that are working to wrestle with questions like the historical Adam. How do we understand Adam in light of the genetic evidence? Or original sin, those kinds of things. So this is going to be a great chance for you to see the work that these teams are coming up with this week. In addition to our grantees, we have many other presenters here, and we are so delighted to have you. We put out a call for abstracts, and we had a lot of very exciting abstracts submitted, and so you'll get to hear those also throughout the breakout sessions and the posters. So there's a lot of opportunity here for collaboration and for thinking together of how we can improve the conversation in churches and in schools and in the academy.